Creatures of the Night, let's talk about Dark Side of the Ring Season 6, Episode 10, Muhammad Hassan. I can't even believe that 10 episodes had already went by and we're here at the season finale. It's been a really great season. If you haven't checked out any of the episodes or some of the episodes, go back and watch the other episodes of the season. For this episode, we do have Mark Capone, who played Muhammad Hassan. We also have Jim Cornette, Chris Masters, Maven Hoffman, Gene Snitsky, and a few others on this episode. This is one of those topics that I'm actually really happy that they were discussing, because I feel like it's gotten swept over the rug. Kind of like maybe like Americans specifically have kind of not really look at this to be a big deal, especially during this time where it was just like, you know, there's a war on terrorism and all this shit was going on, but Osama bin Laden and Saddam Hussein, all those people or whatever. And it just seemed like, you know, with that topic being on the show, this was a way to kind of put their frustrations out on a character that were similar to these people that we were fighting against during the time. I don't know. But this is a very interesting topic for them to have covered. So I found it interesting that we're at a time, 2004, where Stone Cold Steve Austin was like, deuces. The Rock was said, see ya, I gotta make money making these movies. And we're kind of trying to have that next big star. Around this time, we did have OVW, Ohio Valley Wrestling, where it served as a developmental territory for WWE at the time. A whole bunch of big names ended up coming from over there, including Mark Capone as well. Now, he was trained by Jim Cornette, and within the 2 years of him being in OVW, he made it to be one of the top guys over there. Now, one day WWE calls Jim Cornette and they say, hey, Mark over there, yeah, we want him to be Arab. And Jim is just like, wait, what? He's Italian, like, why? But this is WWE, like, can you argue with them? They're looking to do something with you, so it's just like, okay, well, what are you going to do at that point? Just say no? So Jim goes over to Mark and tells him, hey, you know, this is what they want to do. He's not really feeling it. He tells his family about it. They're not feeling it, but this is an opportunity of a lifetime to be able to work with a WWE. Now, he does start off using this character over in OVW before coming over to WWE, pretty much testing the waters with it, and it's getting over in terms of, you know, being that heel wrestler that is Middle Eastern and people already feeling some type of way towards, you know, people of Middle Eastern descent or culture. And it's working in terms of that cliche, the foreign wrestler, we hate them, they're not American, boo, go back to your country. The same shit that they're doing here in America anyway. And it worked. Now, while that was working, they were thinking of when can we be able to have him debut. Now, before they end up having him debut, they even had teamed him up with Sean Davari as well to really, really help bring things up a little bit more. Sean spoke Farsi, and since he was able to speak Farsi, that helped bring that even more, because obviously Mark is Italian, he don't know a damn thing, and that helped the character be more of, I guess, of a heel towards the fans. And at some point, WWE's like, you know what? We're ready to bring them out. Now, it's Sunday Night Heat. And they're announcing how Muhammad Hassan is going to make his debut, because up until that point, they had some vignettes where you're seeing this character, you know that it's coming at some point, but not necessarily knowing when. And on one particular Sunday Night Heat, they end up saying that, hey, he's going to be over. And they were like, well, how are you getting over to the show? You're not taking a flight, are you? And saying that is fucked up, because it's like, oh, so if you were to take a flight over to Monday Night Raw, you're going to get bombed because there's Middle Easterns on the plane. Now, that's already fucked up as it is, but that just to show you just a little bit of how crazy this whole shit was going to be. So now it's Monday Night Raw. We have Mick Foley in the ring cutting a patriotic babyface promo. Everybody and their mama's buying into it. And he gets interrupted by Muhammad Hassan. Muhammad Hassan isn't playing a foreign wrestler. He's playing the I'm American, but I'm of Middle Eastern descent, and because of the things that have happened, y'all treating us as we're the terrorists or whatever. In a way, it makes sense. It does make sense. And I get it from that standpoint. However, things did go left at some point. Now, for myself being a New Yorker, like I saw it so much where it came to people who, if you were Muslims, there were girls who would wear hijabs that wouldn't even wear them when they left the house. You know, they'll probably wear it before they get back inside the house because they did not like getting discriminated. And then the guys as well, they didn't have to wear anything traditionally or religiously. But if you were to even think someone is of Arab descent or you think that they're Muslim, then they unfortunately would experience a lot of discrimination. And I cannot tell you how bad it was growing up in New York, just seeing that post 9/11. It was absolutely insane. Now, the characters themselves, they are getting the exact reaction that WWE want. And unfortunately for the wrestlers themselves, it's not looking good because when you play a character on TV, a lot of times fans cannot disassociate the two. They're just like, oh, you're that guy on TV who's supposed to be Muslim and shit. Like, we don't like you for real, for real. And people can't put those two things away. Now, the thing is that when Mark is not the Muhammad Hassan character, he's able to just go around as, Mark Capone, Italian guy, no one thinks of it. But then when Sean Davari, who is going around, people see clearly an Arab guy, and they see his name, and he'll get a lot of discrimination. Even when they go to the airport, there's extra steps in terms of TSA and all that shit, because unfortunately there was a lot of discrimination. And that's when Mark was really seeing firsthand that it's not just of a character that they were playing, that Sean was actually living this life where it was discrimination towards him, and he got to see that firsthand. There was a time that they went to Australia, and there was a group of Arab guys that came over. There was a few of them that were just chilling or whatever. And these Arab guys came over and they said, oh, so y'all playing like y'all Muslims. Y'all not really Muslims. You're not really Arabs or anything. These guys seem to be really offended by them playing this part rather than them being that part. And that's when they started realizing that, the people who are Muslims or the people who are Arab, how that was affecting them with these characters. Because yeah, I understand that it's something that's just on TV, but unfortunately these characters, sometimes they entice things to happen in real life without them even knowing. Now, with that happening, Mark was also facing other issues within the company as well. He's a young guy who's moving up the card really, really quickly, and people backstage are just not feeling it. They're just like, these young cats supposed to just wait their turn, wait in line, and move up the ladder. And he was just getting up there, especially as a mega heel as he was at that time. Now, he also used the camel clutch as a finisher. When I say it out loud, now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, damn, is that supposed to be fucking racist or something? Whatever. He's using that as a finisher. And Mark says that one time in Japan, Kurt Angle came up to him. He said, look, it's not looking right that you're using the camel clutch and Eddie Guerrero is using the camel clutch. Like, you should go over there and tell him not to use it anymore. Now, according to Mark, Eddie responded saying, my daddy came up with the camel clutch. What you mean for me to stop using the camel clutch? Now, out of the blue, here is Muhammad Hassan hearing that he has to go to wrestler's court, where my bae, my dead man, is obviously judge, jury, and executioner. And, he's going through this trial in terms of him going over to Eddie Guerrero and telling him not to use the camel clutch. But honestly, I'll be honest with you, I totally understand why he felt like maybe he should say something, because yeah, you guys are using the same finisher, but I don't think that me being a young guy would have just walked on over there and just say, hey, Eddie Guerrero, Eddie, stop using the camel clutch. Like, I totally understand. Now, for him, his punishment was for him to spend $1,000 on drinks for the guys. And unfortunately for him, the guys, yes, they took the drinks, but they poured them all out, not even drinking any. So he wasted $1,000, and that was for his punishment. Eddie Guerrero pretty much came up to him after the whole thing, just pretty much said, hey man, it's nothing. We're just going to sweep it under the rug. No big deal. If any good came out of this character, Mark talked about how happy he was to be at WrestleMania 21 with Hulk Hogan. This was one of those things where it's just like, as a kid, you looked at Hulk Hogan as this hero, and you never thought that you'd be in the ring with him, and he got that opportunity. However, things were not looking good after that. The company decided to take things up a notch, and rather than him being that American guy who is of Arab descent and not liking how things are in terms of how he's being treated in America because of all the discrimination, they decided to take it up a notch, and they're just like, they're going to be like these radical Muslim terrorists, and he's even going to have these guys that are in like these camo pants and these masks and everything that are just pretty much his goons, just going around terrorizing people, literally like terrorists. And he said something that was very interesting. He said that Stephanie McMahon was the writer of his character and pretty much was the one in creative control in terms of this character. And when all that was going on, he was just like, look, I'm not comfortable with this. I don't think this is the right way to go. And he said that pretty much Stephanie was just like, shut the fuck up. This is what we're doing. And who are you to say no to what we're doing? And a lot of the wrestlers are hearing this and they're just like, why would you do that? Like, you literally in one of the biggest storylines, they're putting your ass up there on the card and you're telling them no. Now, I totally get it from a moral standpoint. You're not feeling the situation. And yeah, I would probably think that this is wrong too. But no one is thinking that. They're thinking about the money. They're thinking about the fame that comes with having a WWE career. How dare you speak out about, not being in a character or not being shown in a light that you feel like the character should be. And I totally understand that. Now, this was to help him get a opportunity to go against Batista for the championship. Now, he was going to have to go against The Undertaker, and winner of that match would be number one contender. They ended up having Sean Daivari go against The Undertaker, unfortunately, at a tape show. And things got really bad. Because the show was taped, that Thursday, remember SmackDown used to be on Thursday, in real time, the London bombing happened. And that happened earlier in the day. And WWE is seeing this. The whole world is seeing the whole London bombing thing happen. And WWE is just like, that's a shame. We're still going to put our shit on SmackDown, and we'll just put a little disclaimer at the bottom of the screen, and everybody will know that this is just a show. Now, they end up showing the match with Daivari and The Undertaker, and how after the match, you have Muhammad Hassan, who is praying, and all these terrorist guys, supposedly terrorist guys, these goons that he got, come on out to the ring, and they end up taking Sean Daivari. They hold him up in the air, and they're going to use him as some type of sacrifice, I guess, to God or some shit. And it's interesting because this is something that has happened in real life, where they have taken American journalists or just, people from around the world who are speaking out about the war on terrorism. They have taken these people, and then unfortunately they have killed them. So they're kind of playing, well, not kind of, they were playing on things like that. And unfortunately, the London bombing had happened that same day. And rather than WWE just thinking, we're just going to pull the plug on this and not air it, they decided to air it and just put a little disclaimer and say, hey, look, the London bombing, that was this morning. We taped this shit the other day. So this has nothing to do with anything. This is just for entertainment purposes only. At that point, the company, people are just like, oh shit, like this is bad. The network, UPN, was just like, hell to the no, take this shit off. We don't want this character at all on our network. The sponsors are saying, hey, look, we're pulling out. We're pulling all the way out. We don't want nothing to do with this if y'all going to be having this type of stuff on TV. Now, one of the writers also had contacted WWE. They're just like, hey, we don't like this. This is not a good look for the company. They ended up demoting him for speaking up, but then end up pulling the plug on the character because of the network and the sponsors wanting to be out. And if they couldn't do what they wanted them to do, then they wouldn't have a place to air the show, and even sponsors to obviously bring in the money. And it's kind of interesting to think that it had to get up to that point for them to, they probably didn't even feel like it went too far, to be honest with you, because they went that far anyway with no problem despite the complaints. And just because money was obviously going to be taken off the table, they decided we're just going to make some changes here. So at that point, Mark didn't really know what was going to happen. For him, he thought that maybe we can just kill off the whole character and I could possibly just be another character, just be myself, or just be anything other than Muhammad Hassan and just move past this whole fiasco. So he was talking to John Laurinaitis, and he was just like, look, bruv, there's this really cute house that my family and I like, and we're about to close on it, and I'm about to buy this. And Johnny said, baby, don't even buy it. Don't even buy it. And when he told him that, Mark was just like, fuck, I'm about to lose my job. And that's exactly what ended up happening. They end up using the character just to kill off the character at the Great American Bash. Like, how fitting, the Great American Bash. Undertaker versus Muhammad Hassan. Undertaker ends up giving him a last ride all the way to hell. And they wrote off the character, basically killed him, if that makes sense. And, a situation like that, you probably would think that maybe they'll use him for something else, because it's not like he was a bad wrestler. He obviously had the training, and he could have won championships mid-card, at least, if anything, if they would have taken the time to just repackage him just to be someone else. But I think that that deep-rooted hate was so instilled into this character that maybe, most likely, if he were to even be another character, people would still see him for being Muhammad Hassan. Now, maybe if it were me, I probably would have tried to see what we could do, but they literally gave him the boot, and it got to the point where he's literally living in Vegas all alone, and he is just like depressed. He's jobless. He doesn't know, like, he literally had somewhat of everything, and everything was just taken away from him so quickly. And the company just didn't call him back for anything else. They could have used him in other ways, and they didn't take that opportunity. Now, for him, he goes on to say that he doesn't regret it. If he had to do this all over again, he would do it over again, because that gave him the opportunity to do what he's doing now. He said that the failures of him being a wrestler ended up having him go back to college. He was working at UPS for a while. Then he went on to being a teacher. He got his master's degrees. He became a principal. And now he is the director of human resources for the school district that he works for. So, if it wasn't for all the failures in his life, that wouldn't have led him to where he is right now. And he still says that the best is yet to come with what he's doing right now in his life. Sean Daivari, who he is actually still over there. He is an agent at WWE. He's the brother of Arya Daivari, who is in AEW, who's also one of the trainers and wrestlers in AEW. So he still works there. None of that shit affected him, surprisingly. I guess all that heat wasn't on him. Let me just say, like, when it comes to when it comes to wrestling in general, if you really want that cheap heat, when you're not creative enough to give anything else to make people hate someone, it's easy to say, hey, you're from Russia. We're going to hate you. The crowd's going to hate you. We just say you're from Russia, or if we say you're from Germany, or some shit like that, and it's so easy to play that foreign heel from countries that are obviously not allies of the Americans, and that can get over. So I do feel like it's one of those things that wrestling companies kind of rely on a lot, I guess, lack of creativity or whatnot. But I do feel like even for the time, at first when they started with this, it was just like, oh, this is quite a bit, but okay. But it comes to a point where you have to look at what's going on, not just politically, but in a social aspect where you got to read the room, where you're just like, okay, yes, they're booing, but are the crowd feeling this? This is hitting way too close to home. People obviously lost their lives at 9/11. They lost their lives towards terrorist attacks. And it's not just Americans, but also Arab people as well. People of Arab or the Muslim culture. They've also experienced discrimination on their side as well. And it's just one of those things where they kind of took advantage of the misfortunes of that time to make for good TV. Did it work? Yeah, it did work. But at some point, I think that it's not wrong for wrestlers to come up to you and say, look, this is getting out of hand. And it wasn't just the wrestlers. Like, even the writers were coming up to WWE and just say, look, we're doing a little bit too much here. And for them, they just feel like they have this power to do and be, and everyone should just be like, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, and let them do whatever the hell they want. And look at where it got them in terms of this story. And it didn't go much anywhere further for Mark to continue his wrestling career, despite him having to have somewhat of success while that short time of him wrestling. WWE, they were careless with this and pretty much just thinking of ratings when it came to this story. This was a really interesting topic. I would love to hear people thoughts on this, who is of Arab descent or who are Muslims, and how that story might have affected them during that time. Some people don't really realize this, but yet these little stories on TV, they do play out in real life, because they just cannot put these stories and real life separately, and sometimes they do affect people in real life. So I would like to know like what people think and how that may have affected them. Really, really interesting time to have been a wrestling fan during that time. You guys, this has been a really great season of Dark Side of the Ring. So if you haven't checked out any of the episodes, go ahead and check them out. Whether it's season 6 or the entire Dark Side of the Ring starting from season 1. If you love professional wrestling, if you're into documentaries, this is a really, really great show. And I'm pretty sure we'll see them for season 7. You guys, thanks so much for watching my reviews. I still do reviews on other things, so subscribe and watch me talk about other stuff. You guys, I appreciate it. See you guys in the next one. Bye.